Hey everybody, how we doing? Ready for another Twitch stream? Thanks for joining me today. I'm Matt Groves. I'm here with episode 70 of Live Coding, and just like Tuesday, I'm going to be doing some writing. There'll be some coding involved, of course, but I'll be writing a quick start tutorial. This is going to go to the official Couchbase docs site in the new quick start section. And on Tuesday, I did ASP.NET Core with dependency injection, Couchbase. This time, I'm going to do some similar but different. We're going to be going through just .NET Core this time. Just going to be a console app, and I'll be using link to Couchbase, and I'll be using a different IDE as well. I used Visual Studio last time. I'll be using Visual Studio Code today. So I'll be using Visual Studio Code to do both the writing and the coding, which will be interesting. We'll see how it goes. But I'm glad you're here joining me today to go through some cool stuff. And as always, if you have questions, it doesn't have to be what I'm working on right now. It could be on previous episodes or future episodes or coding stuff or unrelated stuff. Ask away. There's no such thing as a stupid question around here. So this is a safe place for you to hang out, ask questions, no matter how basic or you think they might be. There can still be some interesting discussion come out of those questions. So they're absolutely welcome here. All right, let's get to the normal plugs here. I am a member of Team Live Coders here on Twitch, and I've got this in, I've got this in incognito mode, but you can see here, these are all the team members listed here, and the ones with red dots are the ones who are currently live streaming. So if you're looking for someone to check out on Twitch, check out some live coding, I would start here, twitch.tv/team/live coders. You can get a list of people. You can go check out what they're about and follow them. And you can also see who's streaming right now. And we'll come back to this list later on in the stream. Towards the end, spend about 2 hours, maybe not even that much, depending on how this tutorial goes. After that, we'll come back here and we'll raid one of my fellow team members. So we'll all go and join their channel and see what they're up to and just sort of keep it going. Okay, next is the Awesome Developers streaming list, which you can go check out at github/bnb/awesome developer streams. And this is a big text file that lists developers who are streaming. And so you can just do a Control F here, look for a term you're interested in, technology, maybe it's JavaScript, maybe it's... Hey, it's Calvin, let's code! Welcome, Calvin. How are you? Great to see you. Was that supposed to be like a ghost sound? Like a code? Living the dream. Awesome. Great. Glad to have you here, Calvin. Glad to see you. You have no idea. It's just fun. I'm gonna take it like a ghost sound. Let's code. All right. So you can go and you can find Calvin on this list too, right here. You can see Coding with Calvin. I don't know if he's done much streaming recently. He's been super busy. He's got a new app going out, a Xamarin app going into production. He's doing some cool stuff. But he's worth a follow on Twitch anyway. He's an awesome guy. So when he does stream, you'll know about it. So definitely go check out Calvin and follow him. And I'll even give him a little shout out just to make sure the bot is still working. Hey, it's Manning Publications. Thanks for stopping in, Manning Publications. I'm glad you're here. I wonder if that's Candace on the other end or if it's someone else running the account. But yeah, definitely check out Manning Publications. They are really ramping up their Twitch stuff right now. And while they're not a Live Coders team member, I'm assuming many Live Coders people will be on Manning's channel. So that's another one you definitely want to check out. Manning Publications. Give them a shout. Go check out their Twitch stream. Doing some cool stuff. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say much more than that. So, but we're working on some stuff with Manning right now. And I'm a Manning author from way back. So you can definitely want to check them out as well. They have a lot of great books there. One of my favorites, actually, I don't have it handy. It's over on my bookshelf, but it's Andrew Luck's ASP.NET book. I've also got this handy Kubernetes in Action book that is really, really thick, and I still haven't gotten through all the way. But a lot of great books at Manning. They always have great prices, DRM-free kind of stuff. They're not a sponsor or anything. I'm just, just thought I would give them a shout since they're here. Yeah, the AOP and Net book, that's the one that I wrote. It's pretty out of date. Oh, it's Cody. Okay. Not Candace, it's Cody. Well, tell Candace I said hi, and thanks for stopping in, Cody. great to see you, and looking forward to some cool stuff from Manning here on Twitch. So Manning, you should probably get yourself submitted here. Although I don't know, you're not a person per se; it's a account. But you should check out the Awesome Developer Stream list here on GitHub. See if you can maybe submit yourself, get yourself added, because lots of cool content there. But yeah, you can go search. If you search for Azure, for instance, you would come across Calvin right here. If I just did Control F and put in Azure, well, if I could spell Azure correctly, there he is. And you can see all the links to the various stuff. It's not just Twitch streamers. It can be YouTube, Facebook, Mixer, whatever, Periscope, wherever you do the streaming. So you can definitely check that out there. Awesome Developer Streams. That's on GitHub. You can check out the video, and I'm actually getting a little out of date, but you can check out the old episodes of this stream. They get saved to Twitch for some period of time, and then I export them over to YouTube, where they will stay in perpetuity. You can check out old episodes, and if you're the type of person who likes to skip around and time travel, YouTube's probably the preferred medium for you. You can skip all this sort of intro stuff and my normal plugs and get right to the content. That's totally cool. But of course, you miss out on the chance to interact live, but you can still leave comments there and questions and things like that, and I will get to those on the stream. So shout out to everybody on YouTube. How are you doing? Upcoming events. So the Hampton Roads event was Tuesday. I think it went pretty well. I had lots of fun. It was great being in Hampton Roads. The next thing I've got coming up, I don't know if I call it an event per se, but I thought I would promote it anyway, is I will be a guest on Andrabus's stream. That'll be April 22nd at 11 a.m. That's Eastern U.S. time. And he is working on a project, a web API project. And he is interested in learning something about NoSQL in a .NET project. So I'm going to go over there and we're going to hack on that project a little bit together. We don't have a set plan or anything prepared per se. We're just going to get at it and get some Couchbase going. And that'll be fun. I'll be a guest on another stream, so that's a fun thing. So you might want to check him out as well. Give him a follow on Twitch so you know when that's happening. But that'll be next week, 11 Eastern time. Still working on some stuff with PHP Tech Conference. There may be some presentations that I'm hosting on Twitch or somewhere. Don't have any details yet, but keep an eye out for that. And then my GDG Cloud is coming up in May. That's for Oslo and NDC Oslo. Still no more details on that. They're working on it, I'm sure. That'll be in June. So keep an eye out for those. And I'll add more events in here. I'm sure I'm forgetting one, but I'll add more events in here as I come across them. Okay, so today I want to spend a little bit of time reviewing the last tutorial. I did some work between then and now to get that tutorial finished and submit the pull request. And I got some reviews from my boss, and I made some changes based on his reviews. So I want to kind of take you through that and show you how it works and give you the chance to go out there and check it out and try it out. It's not officially deployed to the site yet. But it's still a public pull request. You can check out all the details there if you want to. And then after that, I'll get into my second quick start tutorial I'm going to write today. And you can see, here's the link for right here. This is the Jira ticket for it. So I'm just going to set that to be our current project for today. So that is the second ticket, 6602, in an epic. So an epic is basically a collection of smaller tickets, smaller tasks, and they all are related to each other, so you sort of group them together into an epic. And there's lots of reasons why you want to do that. Mainly for us, it's organizational reasons and sort of tracking reasons. Tutorial. That's the Little Mermaid's distant cousin. Tutorial. Okay, I think that's everything. So let's get to it. Over here, here's the actual. This was the ticket I worked on last time. And 6602 is what I'll be working on today. You see, it's not much different, except that we're going to be using a console app and VS Code this time, and link to Couchbase. So we'll see that in action. But I want to take you to the tutorial I worked on last time. So let's get to a preview view of that. Maybe, there we go. And so you can see this, the whole thing put together. And so prerequisites, start a new project with screenshots, ASP.NET Core configuration, And eventually we decided, thanks to participation on Tuesday, to use the dependency injection extension, which made this part so much easier to deal with. And it's what I'd recommend if you're building an ASP.NET Core app, even though that extension is not officially supported by Couchbase Incorporated. It is still a very handy way to get ASP.NET Core integration into your project. I don't know if I covered this, but you have to also clean up your connection on application close. You're going to close that cluster connection, that network connection, so you're not having any sort of leakage or any sort of connection that just sort of orphaned out there. Create a new document, and struggled with this a lot, but I basically just settled on, okay, you're going to have to do a post of something. I put an example of a post here. One thing my boss asked me to do is to put an example of a curl command in here. And this is actually, thanks to the way Postman works, I can actually generate a curl command line from Postman. Even though this will not work in PowerShell as is, it's still handy for people who do use curl, who use other kinds of operating systems. And I put this little note in here. You can actually go the other way. You can copy this curl command, paste it into Postman, and that'll become a Postman request. So we can go both ways. So it's kind of a common language between operating systems is curl, even though technically speaking, I don't have curl installed here on Windows. Okay, and that's the result. Screenshot, query the document. Yesterday, I had queried it to use the ID, and I realized later after reviewing it that that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to do a secondary lookup on something other than the ID. So I just changed this to be a select based on the temperature, equal to 25. And I had to change this endpoint, instead of returning a weather forecast, to return potentially a list of weather forecasts, because multiple forecasts could have the same temperature, right? Okay, and body successful response, and then done. And then a link to the source code. So all this is out there on GitHub. I can take you there. It's Couchbase /docs server. And you can see under pull request, whoops, not there, pull requests. There's a lot of pull requests because the docs team is very busy. But there's mine right there. That's my pull request. So there's my initial commit from last time, and then some reviews from my boss, and then I updated the tutorial, and there we go. So now it's just sort of pending a merge, which I have permission to do, but I still want to hold off on that until I hear back from my boss again, just to make sure that we're all good before we basically throw it over to the docs team and say, here you go. We want to make sure everything's shipshape and following what we've all agreed upon. So at that point, it won't be immediately into production, but the docs team will then take over from there and get that Quickstart tutorial into their new Quickstart framework. So that's where we're going. Today, we're going to do a different Quickstart tutorial. It's going to follow kind of the same structure. So I want to just make a copy of this and throw it off here into a temporary holding place, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this down. And then I'm going to go back over here to TortoiseGit actually. And so, hey, thank you for the follow, Candace NY. Now, I'll bet that's Candace. But thank you for the follow, Candace, and great to have you here. I told who was it? Cody. I told Cody to say hi. So thank you for the follow. Glad you're here. So these are the two commits. So this was the initial one I did yesterday, and this is the updates I made after the review. And so what I want to do is I want to create another branch with my second tutorial. I don't want it to be part of this first pull request. I want it to be a separate pull request. So I'm going to go back to before my initial commits. Calvin wants to write a Manning book. Hire Calvin. So the thing is with Manning, it's not just books. They do some other really cool stuff. So it's books are great, of course, but that's what they're most known for. But there's lots of other cool content you can create for Manning. Technology birthday grams, yeah. Show up in like a costume and just sort of come to someone's front door and you can sing some code to them. I don't know. Maybe they don't do that. But yeah, hey, Calvin, my recommendation for you if you want to write a book, is first don't. it's it is it is a lot of work. It is hard work. Manning has great editors that helped me through it the first time, but I am so glad I had them, because I had at one point planned to write my book and just sort of self-publish and go through Kickstarter and stuff like that. But the second thing is, before you even approach a publishing company, like write down, an idea, maybe even a sample chapter or something like that, so you can come to them and say, hey, check this out. Is this interesting to you? And maybe it's a book, maybe it's some sort of video course or series of white papers, pamphlets, something like that. I don't speak for Manning. I'm not the acquisition department, but that's what I'd recommend, is just start there. That's what I did anyway. That was a long time ago. So, anyway, okay. So what I want to do is I want to go back to this commit. This is before I added my tutorial, and I'm going to create a branch at this version here. So I'm going to create a new branch. I'm going to call this doc 6275 Quickstart, and I'm going to probably need a better name for this, but I'm going to call it 6602, because that's the doc 6602 is the ticket that's that's part of the epic doc 6275. Okay, and so I'm going to base it on that commit, and I'm going to create that. There you go. You can send off an email to cota@manning.com. Yeah, if you're really into that sort of thing. I gotta say, it's been a while since I wrote my book, but I really enjoyed working with Manning while I was an author there, and I look forward to working with them on some other stuff we've got going on right now. Okay, so at this point, now if you look at my my code, that quick start went away. Oh, it should have gone away. Why is it still here? Oh, I know, because I created. Get hyped for TBD Gamer. Love when a plan comes together. Hey, TBD Gamer. Good to see you again. So what I got to do is, I created the branch, but I got to switch to the branch. So we'll switch over there. You can see here, I'm going to switch over to Quickstart 6602. These are branches I'm creating in my own repo, basically. These are not going to affect the doc server repo. I don't want to be creating branches there. But once I switched over to that branch, notice my Quickstart file is now gone, because I've kind of gone back in time a little bit. Say I'm going to create a fork starting from another point. I don't know what this error message is about. So basically, I don't want to cram all of my 2 different tutorials into one pull request. So I want to make them separate pull requests, which means I need a separate branch. And this is why I copied that file earlier into a notepad here, just kind of a temporary place for it. So let's go back over here. And so this is the name of the file. That's not the name of the file, I don't think, actually. I may have just copied and pasted that. So let me go over and log into this with my actual account. And I can't show this on the screen, but what I want to do is, it's not going to be ASP.NET Core. It's going to be link and VS Code. Okay, I'm going to save that. So then if I refresh this, you'll see this is the URL that I want to use, the file name I want to use for this tutorial. So in Pages here, just like last time, I'm going to create a new file, and it's ASCII doc, so the extension there is a doc. And I'm going to go back here, and we'll just copy this first part over, even though I'm going to make changes to this. Let me just zoom out a little bit. As you can see here, I need to make a different folder in the assets and source. Assets images will be a new folder called Quickstart Netcore 31 CB65. So that's where I'm going to put images that I use in this tutorial. And similarly, for examples, I will create another folder here where I'm going to put the source code. Because I'll have, at the end of this tutorial, I'll have a complete sample. And some people want to just skip ahead and run that sample and start from there. And that's totally fine. So I want to make that available to them. Okay, so this is going to be a new title, .NET Core with link to Couchbase first query. We're going to use the Couchbase .NET SDK in a .NET Core console application to create new database records in Couchbase and look them up with link to Couchbase. All right. So just like before, it'll be the same kind of prerequisites. Couchbase Server 6.5 is already running. Empty bucket name default has been created, which I probably need to make sure I've got that, so I don't have that running. Docker start, it was CE-6.5. Both the primary index and adaptive index have been created and built for the default bucket. And if you still need to perform those tasks, use the following. So this all still applies. Visual Studio Code is installed. And this tutorial uses Visual Studio Code. And I'll put a version number in here. What is the version number? 1.44? Sure. Visual Studio Code updates automatically, so this is not super critical, but it's good to note. So now we need a good link to send a person to if they've not installed Visual Studio Code, just in case. So code.visualstudio.com looks like a good place for me. And we'll change this link here to that. Okay. .NET Core Runtime is installed. This tutorial uses .NET Core 3.1. Yep, that's still true. A tool to make HTTP requests. We don't need that for this one. This is a console app, so we don't need to make HTTP requests. So this will be a little simpler, a little less agonizing over JSON and headers and all that kind of stuff in curl. Okay, that's all we need really to get started. So next thing, step 1, start a new project in, let's call it start a new .NET Core project. Be right back meeting. All right, TBD Gamer, we'll see ya. Okay. Now to start a new project, I'm going to do that from the command line here because Visual Studio Code doesn't really have the file new, templates that Visual Studio does, which is fine. So getting started, and we're going to go to examples, and I've got. Surprised that there's another folder in there. Meetings always get in the way of the learnings. Why is there another folder in there? That shouldn't be there. Oh, I know why. Yeah. So it's that doesn't need to be there. Why can't I delete it? Okay. I want to delete that before it gets confusing. So let's close out of this because I think it's got a lock on. Oh, just on the other screen, Visual Studio Code updated. So I already have to change the version number. All right. All right, so we're going to back up here and open code here. Okay. Yep, so now we got 1.4. Okay, so it's still 1.44. That's fine. And the version number isn't super important in Visual Studio Code, but it's something to might help us to gauge how old this is, 6 months from now. Oh, this was 1.4.4. We're on 1.8 now, or something like that. So, okay. All right, so we're going to go to command line. We can do this command line from Visual Studio Code, but Visual Studio Code is going to get a little noisy anyway. So I want to kind of just, and also an excuse to use Windows Terminal. It's possibly my new favorite tool. Okay, so we're going to create a new project. It's .NET. I have a hard time remembering because I rarely use it, right? But I could say .NET new. Okay, and it's going to be console application. So .NET new console. .NET new console. Something like that. Okay, and Name. Okay. I'll just call it, I don't know, first query. So I think that's what I want to do. Show that in the tutorial. It's going to create a new project. Oh, didn't like it. What didn't it like? Oh, because I still have help in there for some reason. That's weird. Okay. Okay, so that's going to create csproj and probably a program.cs, I'm guessing. Let's see, first query. Yep, and then object folder. Okay, so that's all there. So that's what I want to show. Just going to knock it up as PowerShell. Doesn't really matter. Oh, I kind of wanted to see the output of it. Okay, the template. Yeah, so this stuff right here, I probably want to show that as well. Just to kind of show what you expect the output to be. I might want to obfuscate this folder name, but okay. From a command line, use .NET new to create a new project. For this quick start, we'll be creating a console, a simple, is that worth putting in there? Simple console application. Okay, and after that completes, after executing that command, you should see an output similar to this. Okay, yeah, that's fine, and I want to make this folder to be a different name, right? So, your folder. Your folder here, something like that. Okay. Open this folder with Visual Studio Code by using File, and there's Open Folder, right? Open Folder. So maybe I want to just have another window open here, kind of so I have screenshots and such. File, Open Folder. So let's screenshot that. There we go. And again, my tool is called GreenShot. That's what I use for screenshots. Proj docs, server, modules, getting started, assets, images, right here. Okay, and we'll just save it like that. File, open folder. Oh, I did pick open folder, right? Yep, open folder. That's good. Okay. And let's see, Proj. Gotta go through this whole tree again. Getting started. Examples, quick start, first query. Select that folder. Okay, that looks good. And should see something. Looks like it's compiling for it automatically, but I'm going to take a little screenshot just to show kind of what it looks like, what people would expect if they're following along. Okay. So this would be a good place for the image. And I'm going to rename it to something better. I'll call it open folder. So this would be a good time to get the preview open, see if it works. Yes, it does. Open folder in Visual Studio Code. when you open the folder, you should see, what do we call this over here? I guess you should see the contents of the folder, including program.cs. So that would be another place for a screenshot, which I'm going to call, I don't know, folder contents. Okay, and this is the folder contents in Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio Vode. Okay, so we have created a new project, we started it, and away we go. Okay, what is in program.cs? Is it just a hello world? Yep. Okay. Program CS is where we will be doing all the coding for this exercise. It should currently contain a hello world example. And I guess I could show that. Like this. Source C# indent equals 0. This is how you can put little code samples inside ASCII doc, and they'll show up with syntax highlighting. Like, there you go. Okay, so that's it. That's the first step. Okay, not really any configuration needed here, but I guess the rest of this is, I mean, there is configuration, but we're not going to use configuration in this case. All right, so we'll call it step 2, and we're going to call this Couchbase cluster configuration, or CCC. Why not? Okay, so in here, oh, you know, what part of the, did I add Nougat? Where did I do that at? Did I do it in the first part? It's so big. I did it in step 1. Okay, so I'll do that again here. Next, install the link to Couchbase package from Nougat. On the command line, and that's just going to be here, PowerShell. Okay, and so just like yesterday, installing the link to Couchbase Nougat package will also just bring along with it the Couchbase SDK as a dependency. So there you go, link to Couchbase, and the .NET CLI would be this. So I'm going to pin it to a specific version. Okay. Whoa. This will add link to Couchbase. I think that's already explained, but I don't know, that might be good enough. So let's just say cluster and link. Configuration the right word, or setup? Let's call it setup. First, create a Couchbase cluster object to connect to the Couchbase server. So the code for that is going to be over here. I guess in main, let's just call in main. So this will be, whoops, our cluster equals new cluster. Is this going to find it for us? Wait, did I not actually do? I didn't actually do it. There we go. Probably should follow my own instructions, huh? Okay, that looks good. Should I include that in the output? Let's see why not. I did it before. Oh, I do want to obfuscate this to some extent. Like so. There's a lot, but yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I want to use the same sort of fake folder that I used up here. Your folder here. Oh, not the zproj. There we go. What's that P? That's just from PowerShell. Get rid of that. Okay, that looks good. And I mean, maybe do I even want to show what that does to the CS proj? I don't think this was necessary, but there it is. Okay. Using a Couchbase. Okay. New client configuration. And doesn't like this, but then servers equals new list of RI. Like so, new URI. Host 8091. Need to put some includes in here. System generic. URI comes with system, so that's good. Cluster.authenticate. Administrator. Password. And I could also say bucket equals cluster.open bucket of, it's called default. So I'm going to tag this. This is a ASCII doc thing here, but cluster setup. So the way that'll work here is I'll say include. Oh, I gotta give it, yeah, indent equals 0. Include colon, and that is going to be program.cs, and it doesn't like that. First, is it? No. No, .NET. Okay, yeah, examples, quick start. Should be program.cs, so that should include something. Right? Oh, / first query. Okay, so now this should show up. The whole program, I don't want it to. Oh, it's not including the whole. Undeveloped directory, so it's like it can't find the file. Is that right? So, oh, I'm looking in the wrong place. Examples. Quick start -net core 3165 / first query. In there should be program.cs. Why are you misbehaving? Let's try this over again. Okay, back here. Why aren't you finding my programs? Yes. Oh. I know why. This is a token. It's not automatically, doesn't automatically know. Okay, but then I want to say tag, and look, so check this out. This is pretty cool. Let me zoom in here. This is one of my favorite things about AsciiDoc, by the way, because I've got code in a separate file. So if I make changes to that code, I don't have to copy and paste them into AsciiDoc or have some separate process do that. AsciiDoc is smart enough to know I'll go in and grab the source code from that file. And I can specify in this, like, which part of the file do I want to actually grab. So that's why I put those tags on there. You can see I've got a tag cluster setup and then n cluster setup. So if I want to include just what's in between, though that start and end, I could say tag, tag equals cluster setup. And notice now, just that chunk of code is being included. So this is, when I saw this with AsciiDoc, I was just like, I love this. Again, going back to writing a book, I didn't use AsciiDoc with Manning. I don't know if AsciiDoc was even around when I started. But we had something similar. I don't know. Again, I don't know if this is still around or not. But it was an XML-based markup language, and one of the things, you could opt to write your book in Word if you wanted to, for instance. But the problem with Word is the copy and paste issue. And so the markup language that the tooling that Manning used, I could do something very similar to this. I could say just grab code from this other working piece of code that I have and use that and include it in the manuscript. So if I need to go back and make changes or fix it, rename things, make it clearer, things like that, I can do so without having to juggle, the copying and pasting the code in two different places. So, bam, love that. So I love AsciiDoc. Okay, connection to the Couchbase server. All right, so the next step to this is actually to introduce link to Couchbase. Well, is it? Yeah, I don't see why not. So link to Couchbase. Maybe I should link to Couchbase. Might be a good idea to do that. Just so, it's linked somewhere. But this will tell you how to go through and set it up. So this is kind of what I'm doing here. This basically is all I'm doing. Is back in my code here. I will just say, okay, give me a cluster. It's a new context, and I won't do that here. I'll just say bucket here. So I need to do another include couchbase.link. Okay, and that is it, as far as I can tell, for the link setup. Cluster object, I'll say, and a bucket object, and a bucket object. Using the bucket object, create a link to Couchbase context object. Like so. Okay. Maybe a note about I'm hard coding this for this console. I'll make this like a note. For this simple console app, I'm hard coding the credentials, but you should consider using a like app settings. Using a config file. Okay, that's just a little call out, not call out, but a little like sidebar offshoot. Okay, so that's step 2 is done. So step 3, which is going to look a lot like step 3 from my last tutorial. It'll be a simplified version of it, I guess. We're just going to be inserting a, you know what other thing we should do? I don't know. What do I call this step? Create a new document. Yeah. create a new document. Create a C# class that will correspond to the data model. Data model? Correspond to the documents that we will be creating. So I want to kind of, in this case, the template's not giving us that weather forecast object. So in this case, I want to do the best I can to follow along with what my boss, Benjamin, not M. Groves, had already done with his data model, just to kind of try to keep some consistency there if people want to move back and forth between them. Not a major thing, but no sense in making it more... Oh, this is the wrong branch. No sense in making it more complicated. Oh, it's a pull request. What am I thinking? So his is right here. With the Quickstart he created, it didn't actually write any client code. It's using just SQL, which is a really good example for people who are, come from kind of a DBA/data analyst point of view, right? They don't necessarily they're not necessarily writing a client application like .NET or Java or whatever application, but they're still working with the data by querying it. So that's what his tutorial is a quick start for. So I want to take a look at his file here and just get an idea of what his model is. I might not be able to see it in here. Let's see. This isn't the right one. Right here. Okay. Yeah, I can't see here. Maybe I can get, well, I can't get a screenshot. So quick start, look up. I want to see all those files. Where's the view files at? Did this yesterday. I lose my mind. I want to see all the files in this pull request. Where? I'm not signed in. That's probably why I can't see them, is my guess. I'm nervous about showing this when I'm signed in, but I don't think it's a problem. To show the whole thing. Let's see. Well, where was it? It says files changed. Could have sworn there was a way to view all the files, like as a whole diff. But I can't see it for some reason. I can't remember where it is. Okay. Anyway, all right. Here we go. This will be fine. I'll just copy this whole version here. Okay. Because back over here, and I'll put this in a comment for now. But that's the kind of model I want to create. So I need to create a C# class for that, public class. And this is a user. Why isn't it going on the next line? There we go. So I've got public string email, public string first name, public string last name, public string lyric. I don't know what that is, but we'll put that in there. And public string type, or I'm just going to have that be user. Is that how we do it? What is it? Get. Yeah, I think that'll work. I don't really like the way it's formatting those, but I'll live with it. Okay. So put this in a tag. Just call it user. And I wonder if, oh, cross the bridge when I come to it. Okay. We got user, so we'll add that in there. Cross will be creating, so this will be another, just like this up here, but it will be user instead. Huh? Oh, tag, not tag end, tag user. What did I do wrong? Oh, it's end : user. Gosh. I've done this enough times. Okay. Now create an instance of this object and give it some values. So over in my code, I will be doing this. So equals new user. And I'll say first name equals, email equals, well, what was it? It was perry.mason@acme.com. Fine. First name equals Perry. Last name equals Mason. Lyric equals who can we get on the case? All right, and we'll say bucket.insert. I'll put like this right there, I guess, and user. And I think he had a couple examples of it, right? Yeah, Major Tom and Jerry was a race car driver. Sure, put those all in there. We'll call this 00001, like so. And I can do a similar thing here. User 2, user 3, why not? So we've got Major Tom at acme.com. Major Tom at acme.com. This is Major Tom at acme.com. Major Tom. And it's going to send me up a drink. Was that in the song? I don't remember that. Okay, and last one, Jerry was a race car driver at acme.com. Jerry was a race car driver. All right. We got Jerry and we got Perry. Lyric El Saab number 1. Okay. No idea what this is. These are maybe references to something. Maybe he was listening to music at the time that had these references. I don't know. Okay. And I'm going to make this an upsert. Why not? Because that way, if it runs a second time, it won't blow up. Upserts, and we'll call this the end of upserts. Create instances of this object and give them some values. Use bucket.upsert to put this data into the Couchbase bucket. And this will be a good place for a note. Upsert will either create or update an existing document. Insert will create a document but fail if it already exists. Replace will update a document, but fail if it doesn't exist. Okay, and then now this is where I want to include the actual code. And I call this upserts. Oh, you know, I should have at the end of this, I should, before I forget, put a cluster.dispose at the end. And I don't need to mess with tags around that. Make sure to put cluster.dispose. Make sure to call cluster.dispose at the end of main to close and dispose any resources used in connecting to Couchbase. Okay, and so at this point, I want the reader to run it. All right, so I will say try executing this program now by running. Is it .NET? Is it .NET run from the command line? .NET run. I'm floating in the sea of blue. There's nothing I can do. Didn't actually do anything. Or didn't actually say anything to the console, but I assume if I go over to my cluster, that it will show up there. There it is. Okay, I'll get rid of these. That's from the last tutorial. I could probably use his screenshot actually, but I'm going to create my own screenshot. It says 7 results still up there. Look at that. Is that a big enough deal for me to open a bug ticket? I think no. Because if I refresh it, it won't say 7 anymore. It'll say 3. All right. There were 7 results, so I don't know. Might be worth having that information around. But you'd think a delete would then update the count. Okay, and save this. This is going to be, I don't know, documents UI. Why not? The program finishes executing. There should be 3 documents in the default bucket. Image. And it is, what do I call it? Documents UI. Documents UI PNG. There it is. 3 documents created in the default bucket. There we go. Step 3 is done. Step 4, query documents with link to Couchbase. Now let's query one of these documents with a, I don't know, is it worth calling it a secondary lookup here? Now let's query these documents. Let's keep it simple. query these documents with link to Couchbase. Use the context object. I say context.query method to query documents with the standard link extensions. To query by first name, for instance. We'll go back over here and we'll say, okay, here's my query. Results equals context dot query of type user. Oh, that should be a method, right? Where, right? Where? Why doesn't it like this? System.link. I thought I had that. No, I had Couchbase.link. All right, whatever. U dot first name equals Perry. Okay, and then we can say for each result in results, console.writeLine, result dot first name. I don't know. Let's do this like so. A little string interpolation. Well, that should be a curly brace. Result dot last name. Curly brace result dot email. Second line, result.quote. And then console.writeLine. Just like a little, I don't know, just a write line, just a blank line. That should work, right? .NET run, and it should write out, Oh, it's not quote, it's lyric. Why isn't that giving me IntelliSense inside the string? Interesting. Perry, oh gosh. Too many $signs. This is the string interpolation in .NET. I love it, but I keep screwing up in my mind with PHP string interpolation. Because it's just similar enough with the $sign in front of the string instead of the $sign in front of each of these and curly braces instead. So that's the way my weird brain works. But there we go. .NET run. Okay, so it should look like this. All right. And I'm going to put this as the result. Well, that was longer than expected. Your meeting? Does that mean it went well, or I mean it did not go well? Okay, and I want to put this around here. I don't know if I came out of it with anything. Gotta love meetings like that. Whenever you're in a meeting and you're like, why was I in this meeting? Why do I need to be here? And I feel like the way some people react to that is they try to make themselves part of the meeting so that it doesn't feel like a waste of time. Like, oh, I'm contributing. Where, and my point of view is I should just, decline the next one. I should not be in this meeting. Not all the time, of course. Sometimes it's one or the other. Okay, so source and program, and this should be the link portion of it. So there we go. It could have been an email. Yeah, that kind of thing. Like, we have Slack, we have email. Why don't we just do it in Slack or an email? Or more likely, it's the case where it's the blob meeting where it starts out with like 3 or 4 people, and gradually the next week, okay, now it's 9 people, and the next week is 12 people, and it's like, well, does this really make sense? But I think I've mentioned this before. The company I used to work for, Heuristics, one of the things I liked about them was just a really good culture about not wasting other people's time with meetings. And that was one of my favorite things that Heuristics was. And this is partly because we were really just kind of managing our time and billing our time like to 15-minute intervals, right? Which was tedious. But one of the side effects of that, one of the good side effects, I should say, is that meetings were often looked upon in that attitude, where it was like, do we need this meeting? Do we need to have all these people in this meeting? Because we know we can point to the numbers and literally say this meeting will cost this much money. And so meetings were kept short as possible, with a specific agenda that we knew in advance. And if the meeting ended early, all right, that's a good thing, right? It didn't cost as much. And so we always had the goal of keeping meetings like just the bare minimum, as short as possible. Where if it would be like an hour meeting, that was like, oh, that's a pretty serious meeting. What do we need an hour for? I need to find a way of working for myself so I can have a quick meeting and just get on with getting a job done. Well, unless you're literally just working for yourself and you don't have a customer or anything, you're going to have to meet with people one way or another. All right, so run the program again with .NET Run. I think that's just, I mean, that last company I worked for, that was one of my favorite things. And unfortunately, most of the rest of the companies I've worked for do not work that way. Like, they are just, rack up those meetings. 2-hour meetings, 4-hour meetings. And at one point at Heuristics, the first client I worked for there, they'd schedule all afternoon 4-hour meetings to start and end a sprint, which isn't terrible, but they often went longer than that. It was just such a slog, like so long. So I mean, yeah, not everything at that company was ideal. Right, I mentioned the billing thing; that was kind of a pain, but some good things came out of it, and some things that I wish other companies would take up that same kind of approach and reduce meetings as much as possible. But that's not really what happens, right? It's Parkinson's law is what eventually happens with meetings unless you're super disciplined. Okay, run the program again, and the output should appear like so. Feel free to experiment. I don't know. Experiment's the right word. To add your own users and try your own link queries. That's it. We've reached the end. So I want to have a done. Be sure to check out the other Quickstart exercises. The complete source code is available on GitHub. That's going to be a different folder. It's going to be right here. Okay, I think that's it. So let's read through it here. Something I do with my blog post, but I also like to just read it out loud to make sure my writing makes sense and I haven't forgotten any steps. So, Couchbase server Quickstart, .NET Core with link to Couchbase, first query. Using the Couchbase.NET SDK in a .NET Core console application to create new database records in Couchbase and look them up with link to Couchbase. Prerequisite, run Couchbase server. Couchbase server 605 is already running. An empty bucket named default has been created. Both the primary index and adaptive index have been created and built on the default bucket. If you still need to perform these tasks, please use the following. Visual Studio Code is installed. This tutorial uses Visual Studio Code 1.44. .NET Core Runtime is installed. This tutorial uses .NET Core 3.1. Start a new .NET Core project. From a command line, use... Oh no. Not again. They're invading. I still haven't created a defend command. Defend me, Calvin. We need to defend. Still need to get that defend command in. I'll give a second for the commercial. If anyone's watching commercial, Death Knight says we're here for your couches and your chairs. Well, right now we're doing some Couchbase, of course, and I'm working on a .NET Core tutorial that talks about connecting to Couchbase and using Link to Couchbase. So love me some Link. We're using some Link to Couchbase here. So welcome Raiders, welcome Brian Lagunas. Thank you very much for the raid. I appreciate it. Great to have you all here. This is normally a live coding stream. I'm doing some coding today, but this is very much a writing stream today. I'm writing a tutorial, writing some quick start, getting started content that's going to go into a new area on the Couchbase documentation. The idea is we want to get developers up and running very quickly. And we've done some research that suggests that that is somewhat challenging right now. So we're trying to make it super easy and approachable for developers using the free edition of Couchbase and the language of their choice. So I'm working on C#, .NET versions, and my colleagues are working on Java, Spring, Node, Ottoman versions as well as no SDK at all, just using SQL queries directly against Couchbase. He came out of the forest to steal furniture. Your Couchbase will soon be Couchbase, couchless base. PHP, hey J.R. Lawthorne, what's up? We don't have a PHP Quickstart planned, not yet. Good news though, if you're interested in writing one, this is a totally open source project, open source docs. I know, J.R. Lawthorne, I know. I feel the pain because it's not, no, we're not dropping PHP support. PHP support's still there. But it's just, we don't have plans for that right now. We don't, I mean, our PHP resources are very limited right now. I'm probably the closest thing on my team to a PHP developer. And, you know, as we've seen in previous streams here, I struggle with that a little bit. And it's not on Composer either, which is yikers. But anyway, J.R. Lawthorne, great to see you. I know J.R. Lawthorne from other channels, so I'm glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by. But yeah, Couchbase still loves PHP. Well, I don't know, love's the right word, but we still appreciate and understand and support PHP. And J.R. Lawthorne is using Couchbase with Laravel, which is one of the top, if not the top right now, PHP framework, which I've used in the stream before, at least once. So what I was doing before the raid, before I was so rudely interrupted by Brian Lagunas' Stormtroopers, is I just finished writing the first draft of this tutorial, and I'm reading it out loud. This is something I do even when I'm not on Twitch. I read it out loud to myself, so just make sure I've got all the wording correct and it sounds reasonable and the grammar is correct and all the steps are there, and I sort of read through it. So that's what I'm going to keep on doing here. And it looks like we'll probably finish early today. Stormtroopers, I feel like that's an insult. My shooting isn't that inaccurate. Well, I don't know if you saw it because the commercial one pocket pimp. Oh gosh. But that's the graphic I show during a raid. I show Stormtroopers and the Imperial March and that sort of thing. So I still don't have a defend command. Need to get that in place. So Calvin, who seems to have has gone into lurk mode, Calvin, TBD Gamer, and my other my regulars can throw up a defend. Calvin is here. Oh, I said his name. Between the two of us, we hit about 5% of the time. That's not bad. Okay, all right, so from a command line, use .NET New to create a new project. For this quick start, we'll be creating a simple console application, .NET New console-n first query. After executing that command, you should see an output similar to this. I'm going to make this a little bigger in case you all can't see it. The template console application, blah, blah, blah. There's the folder. Yep, okay. Open this folder with Visual Studio Code by using File, Open Folder. When you open the folder, you should see the contents of the folder, including program.cs. Program.cs is where we'll be doing all the coding for this exercise. It should currently contain a Hello World example like this. There it is. Next, install... Guys talking about weapons in the chat right now. Next, install the link to Couchbase package from Nougat on the command line. .NET add package, link to Couchbase, -- version 1.4.2. And I'm pinning it to a specific version on purpose here. I expect link to Couchbase to get future releases, maybe. But for this, you know, if something in the future breaks it, I don't know what would break it, but if something in the future breaks it, this tutorial will still be pinned to that specific version. So it'll give it, some better longevity. That's the hope anyway. After running this, you should see an output similar to, and this is your standard, NuGet info being written to the console. There we go. Step 2, cluster and link setup. First in main, create a Couchbase cluster object to connect to the Couchbase server and a bucket to connect to the Couchbase server. That's not quite right. Connect to Couchbase server. And a bucket object to connect to, and create a bucket object, right? First, in main, create a Couchbase cluster object to connect to Couchbase server and create a bucket object. Okay, that sounds okay. And there's the code for that. A little side note for the simple console app. I'm hard coding the credentials, but you should consider using a config file. It's fine. Using the bucket object, create a link to Couchbabe. Oh boy. Oh, Couchbabe. That hopefully is not a Freudian slip. Should be Couchbase. Oh, Death Knight was reading my mind there. Couchbase, link to Couchbase context object. See, it's a good thing I went through and reread this thing. Otherwise, I would have committed Couchbabe somewhere. Okay, make sure to call cluster.dispose at the end of main to close and dispose any resources used in connecting to Couchbase. Fine. Step 3, create a new document. Oh, you know what? I probably should show the whole program.cs at some point as well at the end. So I will do that now. Here is the complete startup.cs. Make sure, no, I think it's probably good enough. And this is something I was wondering about earlier. So this is ASCII doc. This is not Markdown. It looks like Markdown, but it's ASCII doc. So one of the things you can do in ASCII doc is you can say include and specify a file, and you can include parts or all of a source code file inside the document. So you can see this include right here. How that's being rendered is over here. You can see the complete file. Now, one of the things you can do is you can, let me bring it up here. So I've put these tags, like here, I've got tag cluster setup and end cluster setup. So I can just include this little snippet in my document by saying tag equals. So this will just include one part of that. So what I wanted to do at the end here is I wanted to show the whole program because it's relatively short. What I'm kind of hoping, and there may not be a way to do this, is I want to strip out these tags, these tag comments, when it comes to writing this document, because those are just kind of, they don't mean anything to the reader of this tutorial. So I'm going to do a little research right now to see how I can see if I can strip those tags out. How to include code excerpts using tags. A quick reference might be a good place to start. And this Stack Overflow question. So let's go here. Yep, so this is the tag stuff I talked about. Let's see anything about stripping tags. Okay, how to include code excerpts. Yeah. Nothing about stripping tags here either. All right. Anything here about strip indentation? Yeah, I can do that. That's a very important thing to do. See anything about stripping tags, which is kind of unfortunate. Let me just look here again to include files. Okay, does not insert blank lines. It's not the end of the world, but it is just kind of noise. When I do that, I don't know. Let's see, ASCII doc, strip tag comments, include. Let's go to this recommended practices. What was that? Include directive does not strip what? Does not strip document header attributes. I don't care about that. Document extension, 1 sentence per line, include your name. Yeah. Current project is, hello there, GD Hamaja. How are you? Thanks for stopping in. That is what I'm working on. That's a link to a Jira ticket that corresponds to this Quickstart tutorial I'm working on. Right now I'm just trying to research if there's a way to include code into ASCII doc, but at the same time strip out those sort of residual tags from breaking it down into individual pieces. And it's not looking like I can do that. Dynamically hide ASCII, okay. Nope, okay. Well, I don't know. I'll just sort of run this up the flagpole and see if my teammates or my boss agree that that's kind of superfluous. But what I want to show is I wanted to show the complete startup because it has these namespaces in there, and it sort of shows the whole structure with the class and the main and everything. So, sometimes these not knowing the namespaces can be a stumbling block, especially if people aren't using ReSharper or don't understand the shortcuts in Visual Studio. So they put this code in, they say, hey, it's giving me an error, it can't find cluster. Well, that's because you need to include you need to have the using Couchbase up there. So I wanted to include the whole thing there in the tutorial, even though I also have a link to the source code. Again, just trying to be as friendly to someone starting out for the first time as possible. So I think I'm going to go with that. All right, where was I? I was reading out loud and somewhere around here, I think. Yep. Make sure to call cluster. Okay. Yeah. Create new document. Create a C# class that will correspond to the document that we will be creating. So there's a user, email, first name, last name, lyric, type. Now create instances of this object and give them some values. Use bucket.upsert to put this data into the Couchbase bucket. And then there's a little side note here. Upsert will either create or update an existing. That's not worded correctly. Will either create a new document or update an existing document, hence the upsert. It's a combination of update and insert. Insert will create a document, but fail if it already exists. Replace will update a document, but fail if it doesn't exist. Let's try that again. Upsert will either create a new document or update an existing document. Insert will create a document but fail if it already exists. Replace will update a document but fail if it doesn't exist. Okay, good. And there's some examples of 3 objects and 3 upserts. Try executing this program now by running .NET Run from the command line. After the program finishes executing, there should be 3 documents in the default bucket. There's a screenshot of that. Step 4, query documents with link to Couchbase. Now let's query these documents with link to Couchbase. That's kind of redundant, but I don't know. I could just say link to Couchbase, step 4. Where's step 4? Huh? Step 4. Oh, it says setup 4. Should be step 4. I'll just say link to Couchbase. Okay. Now let's query these documents with link to Couchbase. Use the context.query method to query documents with the standard link extension methods. To query by first name, for instance, so-and-so, run the program again with .NET Run, and the output should appear like so. Perry Mason, blah, blah, blah. Feel free to add your own users and try your own link queries. Done. Here's the complete startup.cs, blah, blah, blah. Be sure to check out the other quick start exercises. The complete source code is available on GitHub. Okay, I think that sounds good. Hey, Rob Putt. Good afternoon to you as well. Rob Putt796. Thanks for stopping in. Time for me to make a commit. And more Couchbase. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of Couchbase in here. A lot of .NET, a lot of Couchbase, a lot of C#. Okay, I'm missing a git ignore. Where is a handy git ignore for me? I'll use one from my Twitch bot. Why not? Doc server, modules, getting started, examples. Boom. Okay. Commit. Alrighty. Okay, so I've got 3 images. Going to commit. I've got the git ignore, fine. And then I've got the actual tutorial and program and CS proj. I was writing C# the other day with the Lockheed Martin SDK for P3D. That sounds pretty wild. What is P3D? Okay, and I also want to put the ticket name, which thank you very much, GDHAME, for saying current project, because that ticket is right on the screen for me. It's Lockheed Martin's flight simulation stuff. So P3D is flight simulation. And this is not like simulation for fun. This is like a real simulation, like a physics simulation, I assume. It's not just like, oh, let's fly playing around, it's fun. It's like, well, let's get all the instrumentation and all the science and physics of it into a simulator. That's what I'm assuming, with the name Lockheed Martin attached to it. Pretty cool. And there's a C# SDK for that, sounds like, or .NET SDK, I guess that would be. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, so this is the tutorial for .NET Console app with link to Couchbase, and I am committing this to, let me make sure I'm committing it to the right, yes, to my little branch. It's to try and simulate proper flight. Yeah, proper flight. That's a nice, succinct way of putting it. But you use it for fun. You wanted to inject real-world weather into it from a REST API build. Oh, that's cool. So it's proper flight simulator stuff, but you're trying to do some fun things with it. Inject real-world weather. Oh, that's interesting. Like, you could see the weather where you are right now and just plug it in there. Surly Dev, what's going on? Good to see you. You probably need an intro video as well, Surly Dev, at this point. So think about what YouTube clip you'd like to play whenever you show up in chat. Yeah, intro video. Kind of like Calvin and TBD Gamer. They have intro videos whenever they enter chat. Intro video and a little pop-up that announces that they're here. I have one for Coral as well. I think that's just those 3 at this point. But it's something I want to give my regulars, is their own little intro video, just to make things more fun. Someone said you were playing the Princess and the Wizard. Are you ever going to let me live this down? Gosh. Yes, I've slowly working my way through the Sierra library of games, and one of the early games, I'm going in chronological order, one of the early games was called The Princess and the Wizard. It is terrible. Do not play it. Like a wrestler entering the ring intro videos. Exactly that, Rob Putt. In fact, for my own purposes, for my test entrance video was Jericho's debut on Raw, with the whole Y2J thing, because it's just one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things about wrestling. Don't get me started about wrestling, but one of my favorites about wrestling is all the pomp the intro videos and that kind of stuff. Love that. So yes, that's exactly kind of the inspiration for it. So you nailed it there. All right, so I'm going to commit those. It is good entertainment. And it's one of the only sports right now, and I say live even though they're mostly taped right now, but it's the only sports that's going on right now is professional wrestling. And I was huge into wrestling for like a good 4 or 5 years back in high school and college. I was way into it. I had T-shirts, went to a couple live shows. I would watch religiously. WCW fan is what I was. So, okay, so I'm going to push these out to fine. I'm going to push them out to GitHub. So GitHub is my fork of the repo. Upstream is Couchbase's, sort of the main repo. But I'm going to push these to mine. And there we go. Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks. I don't know what that means. Are those some wrestlers? Those must be before my time. I don't remember seeing those wrestlers. My favorites. I had some weird taste in wrestling. Of course, Goldberg, when he was first WCW, was huge for me, along with everybody else. But I also really liked Saturday Morning. Oh, I see, like big time wrestling. My favorite were also like Jeff Jarrett. I really liked Jeff Jarrett when he was in the NWO in the later days of WCW. I got to look at your video, by the way, Surly Dev. See what you want your intro to be. But I also liked other wrestlers like there were some weird ones like Ernest the Cat Miller. I thought he was hilarious. Norman Smiley. I thought he was hilarious. I liked the standard ones like Sting and Bret Hart. Those guys were really good. The NWO always had the really fun like entertainment type stuff. All right, here's Surly Dev's video. Don't call me Surly. I like it. Okay, I'm gonna make a note of that one. Let me just put it over here, and I'm going to make a note to make that to be Surly Dev's intro. That's a really good one, and it's a nice short video, so that makes it probably makes it perfect. All right, now this is the wrestlers here. Oh yeah, these are some old timers. Giant Haystacks and Big Daddy. Oh yeah, Surly Dev, you're from the UK, so these might be UK. I don't know if these guys ever made it over to the US, or at least on a regular basis. But these might be bigger known names in the UK. By the way, if you're not really interested in watching wrestling itself, it's still a fascinating industry, and there is a series going on right now called The Dark Side of Wrestling. No, Dark Side of the Ring. And this series right here. It's a series of kind of like shortest documentaries about kind of these tragedies and incidents and crazy stuff that's happened in wrestling, and it's a pretty good series, I gotta say. It's not it's not the best documentary series, but really good. And they've got a lot of the the wrestlers, the professionals themselves are involved there, and giving interviews, and it's really good. There's the Benoit series. I just finished watching Benoit Part 1 and Benoit Part 2. Just incredible stuff. Incredible tragedy, incredible awful crime, but really interesting perspectives on it from his family and people affected, things like that. Anyway, don't know how we got off from wrestling. But there we go. So that's committed. Did I push it? I think I did push it. So let me go out there to GitHub here, and I'll get the pull request going. It was way before U.S. wrestling came over to the U.K. Okay. Doc server. This is my fork. So I've got this one here. I'm going to create a pull request. and I'm going to send this over to this one here. So, yep, this is the, yeah, that makes sense. I don't think I need to add much more content to it than that. It's a tutorial for .NET Console app, link to Couchbase. Creating that pull request and sending it over to, you can see I'm taking my own branch and putting it into sort of a different branch, but I think that'll do it. So create that pull request there. And that should be able to merge automatically. It's not going to conflict with anything. But now we go to pull request, and you can see, if I search M. Groves, I've got this one right here. This is what I did today. This is what I did mostly on Tuesday. And there's another one from my boss right here. And so I'm kind of the point guy on this one. I'm supposed to be the one that's actually supposed to merge these in to the to this branch. It's not the release branch, but into this branch. And I'm supposed to be the one. I have the ability to do that. I'm not going to do that today. Probably won't do it until next week. Laravel's docs are open source. Interesting idea. I think that has got to be the trend. If you look at Microsoft's newest doc system, this is all open source as well. Right, so you can go in here and, I don't know, go on one of these pages. And you can see, well, I'm on to channel 9. Just trying to find a documentation page. Yeah, you can see right here who has contributed to the docs. And then you can go, this will take you to GitHub, and you can see the actual docs, and you can submit changes to it and whatnot, submit pull requests. Right now, there's 41 pull requests for documentation. And I've actually contributed to the Microsoft docs as well. I contributed a couple tutorials to it and some other things. Couchbase docs are open source. Microsoft docs are open source. Apparently Laravel's docs are open source. I think it's a good idea because all the docs are out there anyway. The text is all out there in public. Why not make them open source so people can contribute to them, even if it's just typos, or they can contribute, whatever else. You could add some samples in VB.NET. Sure, if you wanted to do that early dev, you could add some Couchbase tutorial examples. You could basically just take the ones that I did and change the code over to VB. Totally fine. It's not something, VB is, you're probably familiar with this, but VB is something that's kind of neglected, right, these days. But I wouldn't be opposed to that. No, absolutely. I would encourage you to do it. I'm not going to do it. Nobody on our team is going to do it. We have higher priorities in VB.NET. But if you want to do it, absolutely. I would love that. VB is done. Since Bill stood down, VB is going to get dropped. The thing is, there are Couchbase users, Couchbase customers that are using VB. And so it's still out there. People are still using it. But I don't know what the VB story is with Core, with .NET Core. VB the language, I don't think is I think Calvin's right. I think it is done, right? They're not adding new features to it. And they're not, most of the stuff you see on Microsoft these days is C# examples, right? And most people using .NET are on C#. But that being said, I know there's at least one, and probably a lot more people out there using Couchbase .NET SDK with VB. So if you want to do it, absolutely, I'm glad to help you do that. But I kind of walk you through the process here. Just you saw what I did with the pull request today. Just going into that branch. So yeah. Absolutely, go for it. And along the way, any questions you have, I'm here to help you get through that kind of stuff. And you can kind of learn. I think I've actually done this before. I answered a Stack Overflow question, and I had to open up a new Visual Basic project. And I used to write VB.NET back in the day. I wrote VB.NET for probably a year before we switched to C#. And before that, I wrote VB script for a couple years. ASP Classic. So I'm not completely ignorant of VB. You always thought VB was clearer than C#. I'm not going to say I'm not going to disparage it, but I think for the most part, I like C# better. But there are a few things in VB, and they might have added these to C# at some point. There are a few things that I really liked about VB. There are a few things that I found to be a lot more expressive in VB. But I think there's some language features in C# that have kind of taken the place of that. So, yeah. And of course, my first programming language was BASIC. So, it's a language that I think may be more approachable to some people. Although I think maybe JavaScript is kind of taking the place of that these days. You want a with for those darn left-right assignments. Oh, that's right. That's right. There's a with statement in VB. That was pretty cool. You always thought of the C# way of declaring variables as backwards. Well, I mean, yeah, because in VB you say dim variable name as type. I didn't really. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really like that much because it seemed a little verbose, right? You have to have dim and as in there. So, but I'm not here to knock it. It's a perfectly cromulent language, and if you're building cool stuff with it, then that's good. Go for it. You're always thinking the name of the variable for the type. Well, these days in C# we have something. We don't even have to declare the type necessarily, right? We can, like var right here, which is different than a variant in VB, which is one of the things that's kind of cool about VB, but also kind of awful, is the variant. But this is sort of a implied, or what do you call it? Implied. I can't remember what they're called. But it can figure out what type it is. See, hover over this, it's iBucket. No, it's not duck typing. Nope. It's not that at all. It's still static typing. But it's type inference. So I could say iBucket here, right? I don't have to. I can just say var. And now the only reason I'd want to use iBucket on the left here is if it's not exactly clear from this right side what the type is. So I want to be explicit about it. I have to use another namespace for this. But there we go. So if this was a more complicated thing over here, if this was an open bucket, well, then I know open bucket is going to return a bucket. Yeah, a bucket, right? Open bucket returns a bucket. And most IDEs, you can hover over and it'll show you what the type is, right? You can see there, couchbase.core.iBucket. But I mean, yeah, some people are very much opposed to the var and like to be explicit about it. I'm in most cases, 95% of the time, I'm perfectly fine with a var. That's just the way I roll. But those arguments have been going around for years and years. Should I use var? Should I not use var? Should I always use var? Should I never use var? That sort of thing. But it is not the same as variant, so don't get them confused. Variant is more like duck typing, I guess. It's more dynamic typing. Var it up, brother. Ranch it up. Let's ranch it up, everybody. Okay, so that's it for what I had planned for today. We got done in less than 2 hours, right? Started at 1:45. It's about 3:30 right now. So we're making good time. That was kind of the two main things I wanted to accomplish this week, actually. Those were my top priority, was getting those 2 quick starts, at least the first drafts, out. So now I am going to take a page from Brian Lagunas' playbook and go raid a fellow team member. So who shall we raid? It's been a while since I've raided Michael Jolly, so I think that's going to have to be it. Bald bearded builder, here we come. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me today. I will be back on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And I'm going to paste a string in here. So copy and paste that. And when we get to join the channel, you'll know we're rating him. A question: could I run Couchbase in a container on Windows? That's what I'm doing right now. I'm running Windows, and I'm running all kinds of Couchbase containers. So that's what I've been doing all the time. And you could also run it just right against Windows if you wanted to. SQL Server, by the way, can run in containers now too, by the way. But you can also run Couchbase Server just like on quote bare metal. Absolutely, you could do that. Kubernetes runs in the cloud, runs on Linux, runs on Mac, runs on Windows, runs pretty much everywhere at this point. All right, so we're going to start the raid. Thank you very much, everybody, for stopping by. Thank you, Brian Lagunas, for the raid. A couple follows. Candace, thank you for the follow. Mops Breath. And I think a few other people followed me while I wasn't streaming. But thank you very much, everybody. I will see you over in Michael Jolly's channel. Be nice, and I hope you all have a great weekend.